and I'm here to present our findings on predicting video memorability as part of the MediaEval 2018. So this work was done at Adobe Research India. I'll straight away move on to a brief introduction of the task. So there has been a significant research on predicting image memorability, which is the probability of remembering an image after viewing it. There have also been development of large-scale datasets, such as the LaMem dataset. The task of predicting a video memorability is a natural extension of the same. We've already had an overview presentation, so I'll just jump straight to our approach. I'll talk about the various features that we used and their processing. So we performed some dimensionality reduction techniques such as principal component analysis, and we did coarser quantization of the color histograms. Coming to the inception V3 features, we plotted a histogram of the activations across the videos, and we found that it is extremely sparse. So we therefore only took the top 150 classes. Coming to saliency. So in prior work on image memorability, it has been shown that there's a significant correlation between the consistency of human fixation and the memorability scores of images. A high human consistency often occurs when humans have one or a few specific objects to fixate on. So essentially, this means that when humans have a specific point of focus in an image, they're better able to remember it and vice versa. Because of this dependence, we generated the saliency maps of 3 keyframes for each video using the highest performing model in the MIT saliency benchmark, that is the Deep Gaze 2. We hypothesized that saliency maps can help in predicting video memorability. For example, I have some videos on the right and their saliency maps overlaid by them. So you can see in the top right video that the saliency maps are fixated on specific objects, while in the bottom right video you can see that they're more like spread across the scenery. So these things also correlate with the memorability scores, with the first one having a higher score of 0.985 and the second one having a score of 0.443. Coming up to captions and image memorability scores. So captions are basically a very compact representation of the semantics involved in a video. For example, in this video shown here, the caption "giraffes fighting" describes the video clip very succinctly, while figuring out these semantics using just the visual features is a very hard task. So captions make a lot of sense. As for the image memorability scores, so I just talked about the correlation of these scores with the presence of objects where humans tend to focus on. Therefore, image memorability scores can also help in predicting video memorability. We used the recent ViMemNet to generate these scores for 10 sampled frames in each video. Finally, coming to our architecture, we designed this 3-forked pipeline for predicting memorability, and I'll describe the components separately. So firstly, the saliency pipeline. Well, the saliency maps of the sampled frames are first downsampled and then passed through a 2-layered CNN, with each layer consisting of a 2D convolution, a batch normalization layer, a relu activation, and a max pool. And the output of the CNN is then passed to another fully connected layer. For the captions, each word's glove embedding is first taken, and then these are passed through a single layered LSTM in order. Finally, the hidden state of the LSTM is taken. Eventually, the saliency features, the caption features, and all the other visual features are concatenated and then passed through a dense 3-layered fully connected network to regress to a memorability score. And the loss we use to train our model is just the mean squared error loss. I'll jump down to the results. So we submitted 3 runs, with the first and second differing on using or not using the image memorability scores. Well, we empirically observed that including image memorability scores of keyframes didn't help us much in improving in the performance. Neither did they hurt a lot, hinting to the fact that videos are much more than just a set of frames and that temporal features really matter. The third run was an experiment to validate whether the lower level visual features help. So we removed the HOG and the HMP features in the run 3. Here we noticed that these lower level visual features do help. Overall, our model performs relatively well on short-term scores with a Spearman correlation score of 0.35 and an MSE of 0.006. On the other hand, our performance on long-term scores still needs improvement. Based on all these experiments and the struggle that we've had with this challenge, we derived some key conclusions and facts that I'd like to present. Well, for the short-term scores, the trend of natural scenes having lower scores, while the trend of videos with objects or some actions being performed having higher scores holds. So therefore, learning short-term memorability using object detection-based features or using visual features seems like a realistic task. Well, when it comes to the long-term scores, though, it's not very clear as to why certain things like the panning direction affects the scores. For example, you can see these two videos; they're exactly the same scene, and just the panning direction is different. This being there, the scores are very different. Like one of them is 0.6 and one of them is 1. Well, one possible interpretation could be that long-term memorability is like heavily affected by subjective factors and personal context. Though that overall, it seems that learning short-term memorability scores is much easier than the long-term counterpart, and probably a more in-depth study is required. Another key thing to discuss is the dependence between the tasks. We wanted to experiment with the multitask paradigm, given that these two tasks should be correlated. But the scatter plot between the two scores proved to be discouraging. It would be interesting to analyze why this is the case. This has been a very interesting challenge to work on, and we'd love to continue a study on it. Given that the presence of objects and actions in videos make them more memorable, we would like to incorporate some action-based features and some optical flow-based features in the pipeline. Also, audio can be a very important part of videos. For example, a horror clip can be very different if watched without sound. For example, you might not even get a jump scare if there's no sound. Another interesting insight would be the link between the image memorability of different frames and the video memorability of the video as a whole. With that note, I'd like to end the presentation and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.